Hello and welcome back. We are so excited, as always, to have Hawk take over the airwaves here at MPTF Studios. We are streaming live on Facebook as well. Hello, everyone in Facebook land, and I'm glad that you joined us for this incredible conversation. It is a combination of behind the book and inside Hollywood. Hawk, tell us more.
Well, Rick, I don't think has written a book, but maybe he will, and maybe I'll bring him back for that. But this is basically Inside Hollywood. And I am excited to interview Rick Nicita this morning. I've known and worked with Rick since the 1970s, and he's one of the top actors agents of all time. Also a terrific producer and now head of American Cinematheque. I've always found Rick to be honest with me, and my guess he's also been honest with his clients. That's why he has kept them for so long. Someone said, and so I'm paraphrasing here, to have longevity and a superb reputation takes incredible stamina, a great sense of humor, a shrewd understanding of people, a charming personality, a formidable intelligence, an ironclad integrity, creativity and imagination coupled with number crunching smarts, and most of all, in a calm and controlled ego. That is Rick Nicita. So come on in, Rick, and say hi to everybody at the Motion Picture and Television Fund. Come on in, Rick.
After that introduction, I don't know. I think I'll just leave now. Bye, everybody. Where do I go from there?
Well, you're going to have to tell the truth here today, Rick. I have lots of really difficult questions like this first one is really hard. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? And what was family life like?
I'm one, Hawk, I want you to know, is one day older than I am. Just so keep that in mind.
Yes, I have seniority.
One day older. I was born in Mount Vernon, New York, birthplace of Ed L'Amato and Denzel Washington.
There you go.
But then we moved to Larchmont, New York, nearby. Grew up there, went to Mamaroneck High School, then went to Wesleyan in Connecticut, and then started my journey.
Well, but let's go back a little bit. Did you have siblings?
Yeah, had a younger brother. Have a younger brother. That was all.
And were your parents?
My dad was
were they managers?
My dad was a kind of middle, lower level executive at a local fuel oil company, and my mom was basically a librarian, and taught me my love of movies and that the most important thing in life is to read. Keep reading, read everything, always be reading. And I ended up an English major at Wesleyan, so it all made.
Well, that's great. Now, as a kid growing up, did you go to movies by yourself with your mom and dad?
First movie I saw, I think my grandmother, my nice little Italian grandmother who didn't speak English very well, she took me in Mount Vernon to see some of her favorite leading ladies. But I think the first movie I saw was a movie called Desert Song with Gordon McRae. And it was in about 1953, 52 or so. But movies, I was a junkie for movies. If no one would go with me, I'd go myself. I literally remember walking through a snowstorm to walk to the Larchmont Theater. I forget to see what, but it didn't matter. And I was the one who always stayed for the credits. Everybody else gets up and leave, and I was the one going, what does that person do? What does that person do? I still don't know on a lot of them, but I know the credits.
All right, so my crush started in 1955 with Natalie Wood in Rebel Without a Cause, and Natalie became, it's like I saw every Natalie Wood. Did you have an actor or an actress that, oh my God, I had to go see her?
Well, besides meeting Natalie Wood, right shortly before her passing, as an aside, she literally glowed like you had plugged her into a socket. It was disconcerting to sit across the lunch table from her.
Right. Well, I have yes, I saw Splendor in the Grass 10 times. before, and luckily the first movie I worked on was called This Property is Condemned, and Natalie was the star
Sure, sure.
with a young actor named Robert Redford in his second film, Sidney
But
Pollack.
I do
But-
think maybe the image that got me into the movie business, if not the movie, it was the image. Seeing it at the Larchmont Theater, a movie not so good, not so well remembered, called Boy on a Dolphin with Sophia Loren and Alan Ladd. And there is a scene where where Sophia Loren is swimming in the water and she kind of hoists herself over a dinghy and gets on the boat. And I remember saying there going, oh my God, I have to be in this business where you can be near people like her. So Sophia Loren is the answer.
Aha, okay. Well, and she was Italian, so therefore
It all worked.
Italian.
Big at home. Yeah.
Right. Now, did you also watch television? Were there television shows as a kid that, other than maybe, Howdy Doody or anything else that stuck out?
I think the shows, I mean, I watched a lot of them, and they're some of them are remembered, some not. The shows I think made the biggest impression on me was Sid Caesar and Your Show of Shows, or the Sid Caesar Show, or whatever. It would change titles sometimes, but
Right.
Sid Caesar, I was addicted to Sid Caesar, still
And
am.
his sketches with Imogene Coco and
There is a sketch called At the Movies, a Sid Caesar sketch on YouTube called At the Movies. It is the funniest damn thing ever. It's about 5 minutes long. I won't even explain it. See it at the movies.
okay, I'm gonna go. So
Sure.
now, so you love movies, you go to Wesleyan, which, by the way, I think because of you, I took my oldest son, Billy, at the time. He wanted to play baseball there, and we went and met the coach at Wesleyan, and Billy said, where's the baseball field? And he said, you're standing on it. And he said,
Right.
but it's a walkway. It's
Yeah.
cement. And he said, yeah, if you're a second baseman, you'll be standing on cement. And Billy looked at me and said, Dad, let's go somewhere else. And he ended up at Northwestern.
Really, I understand that Wesleyan is known for many great things, and I'm a very proud alumnus, but the baseball field wasn't.
Right. And now, but now you love movies, but why did you go to law school?
As I was in law school, it's a question I was asking myself after about 2 months in. I was at Fordham Law School and hated it. From the minute I got there, I just hated it. It wasn't Fordham I hated. It was the study of law in the fall of 1967, where the whole world was exploding. And there I was with these stacks of books reading about cases from, English law in 1630. And I woke up one day, a couple of months in, and went, oh my God, I'm going to drop out, but I have dropped out. I've stopped going to class. Who am I kidding? I'm not in law school anymore. I dropped out. I have to do something.
And
Well,
how did were your parents walking around telling everybody my son's in law school? And then what?
absolutely. I'll get to that in a second, though. But
Okay.
so I dropped down. I literally was sitting in my apartment, not knowing what to do. I had no plan B. My closest connection to the movie business was that the phone number of our apartment was a couple of digits away from the phone number of the Lowe's Tower East Theater. And we'd get a wrong number a lot of times. What time is Love Story? I don't know, hang up. Eventually, I thought, if they're going to keep calling, I might as well tell them. So I'd pick it up. They'd go, what time is Love Story? I go 2:10, 4:30, and 6:20. And they go, thank you, hang up. So that was my introduction to the movie business. But if you want to know how I connected to it, it was a friend of mine his uncle worked at William Morris, was an agent in the nightclub department. Those are the days where you would have a nightclub department. And I thought to myself, I want to be in show business. I want to be in the movie business. How do I get to the movie business? Because what I tell young people, which is everyone, but you, because you're a day older, young people is figure out when you still can do it, what you really would like to do. Don't take the easy path of what society wants you to do, what's right in front of you, what your parents would like you to do, what pays the most money. Think of what you want to do. Give it a shot. Life will tell you. Life will clue you in. Hey, man, not going to happen. Go to your next choice. But give it a shot. So I said, I want to be in the movie business. And he said, but you'd have to start in the mailroom with a Wesleyan BA at $40 a week full time. And I said, I'm in. I went, had my interview, and started literally pushing a mail cart in May of '68 and left the agency business 40 years later in 2008. So I liked it. It worked.
And did you move from mailroom to an agent's desk?
Very fast, 6 weeks.
Who was the first agent?
A guy named Bernard Sohn, who's no longer, I keep trying to look him up. I don't know where he is or what he is. His thing was that he was a bachelor, and his thing was he signed the Ford modeling agency as client. So we had the first look, as it were, of all the models who wanted to be in. If a model said to Ford, I want to be in the movie business, they said, go to Bernie Sohn. They set up a meeting, me as his assistant. So I met with all of them. So I got to know many of them, Veronica Hamill, Maud Adams, particularly Susie Blakely, who became one of my first clients. I'll never forget that I would be on the phone. I knew I had a connection, affinity for this business. I'd be on the phone and I said, let me put you through to Bernie. And they go, no. What do you think of the script? What do you? And I went, oh, okay. So Susie was one of my first clients.
Well, okay, now here's a story. So in front of Beekman Place in 1972, I'm casting background actors for the scene with Streisand and Redford upstairs at the piano. And I looked at Susie Blakely, and I wonder if Susie's on, but I said, Susie, you're up. And I put her in that scene. You must have been representing her.
I absolutely was representing her. Absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But she's a doll. I saw her a year or two ago. She's great.
Susie. Yeah, I see her on Facebook sometimes. Oh, yeah. Fantastic. So you were on his desk, and he was a film agent, not a television.
Film agent, but very nice man. His other connection was Second City in Chicago, and so I knew Robert Klein and a bunch of people. But
so how did you move and how soon did you move from an agent's assistant to somebody said, hey, you know what, you're good enough to be an agent?
Yeah, it felt like about 6 months, 8 months, something like that, very fast. One of my attributes was I was a great typist, so I could type my own stuff. I could type the secretary. I'm still a great typist. I used to type people's papers in high school. That's what got me promoted. It's key to life. Be a good typist.
And you were were you in actors, in talent?
Always actors, always talent.
Always talent. And who was your first client, if you can say?
Well, Susie was, but I'd say right along with her, right then in the early 70s, I had two lovely people who I represented my entire career, which are Sissy Spacek and John Lithgow, who are two of the nicest, greatest people you'd want to meet. They just are, both.
I agree. And then I'm just thinking of when I took over Raystar, we were doing Violets Are Blue with Sissy and Jack Fisk, her husband, who directed. And Kevin, I think Kevin was your client too, wasn't he, Kevin Kline?
Yes, he was then. Yes.
Yeah, we've done a couple of things together.
Down the list a lot.
Yeah. Wait a minute, Jesus, you're moving. You move pretty quick.
Time flies, they say.
Why was it that you wanted actors, and you're a great reader, as you said, and a typist? Why wasn't it? Why weren't you working with writers?
Just fell into it. That the desk that because again, you wanted to become. The trick was whose desk opens up to be so you can become their assistant, and it was an actor's agent's desk. Had it been a lit agent, I would have ended up there. But it's so. Actually, I was eyeing the music department because I love music, rock and roll, etc. At that time, the greats, and was very connected to it. Having worked 2 summers selling programs in the audience on rock and roll tours with the Young Rascals and this and that for weeks and weeks, where, as an aside, I learned one of my favorite maxims that I tried to live my life by, which was we would, for the tour, you'd play the gig. Again, I was just selling programs. I was a nothing. But I got to sleep on the bus. And selling tours, selling programs. The gig finishes, everybody gets on the bus, drives all night to the next gig, pulls into the hotel in the late morning, then you sleep all day and do it again. So the bus would pull in the next morning, bus opens up, and there'd always be shall we say, a gaggle of locals, usually a gaggle of local girls, local ladies, waiting for the rock stars. And I would get out and they'd go, "Oh," and I go, no, I just sell programs. The guys will be coming out soon. And they go, "Oh, no, you're on the bus. You're on the bus." And went, "Oh my God, I've got to be on the bus. As long as I'm on the bus, then good things are going to happen." So my entire life, I've tried to stay on the bus.
You've got the laminate. You've got the laminate. And I didn't realize you had done that because, I was a roadie for the Dave Clark Five.
Yeah, I didn't.
And we did 48 cities in 52 days in 1964.
So
And I was on the plane,
Oh,
not the bus.
sorry, I was on the bus.
Oh my God. So now you were at the Morris office for quite a while in New York. What made you, or what was it that got you to move to LA and work at the Morris office in LA?
Well, I became an agent like 69, I guess 68, 69, wherever that, right in there, not long after starting there. And things were going very well, and I was signing clients. I had a friend, a friend and benefactor, a manager named Bill Tresh, who managed a lot. You must know him. He passed away a couple of years.
Over Greenwich Village, Eric Roberts.
There you go. He had a hold on all the young talent, including Sissy, to name one, all the young talent in New York. He just dominated as a manager, not as an agent, as a manager. And he and I developed friendship, and he would place his clients with me, this young know-nothing, where he could have done a lot better, but a lot safer. And so before I knew it, I had this wonderful client list of up and coming great New York, Chris Walken, Tom Berenger, Eric Roberts, Sissy, more and more and more, other whole bunch. And I had no right to them, but I kind of learned along the way, and I just didn't fumble too much. So I was doing pretty well at William Morris in New York, and I enjoyed it greatly. And my career was moving along.
You were married at the time. You got married young.
Yes, got married to Wally, who cast your didn't you do pictures with you? I think she did.
Of course.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about it now, but I think Jesse's the same age as either Robbie or Billy. I can't remember which one.
Yep. I think it must be Billy. No,
Billy's 54. Robbie's 45.
Robbie.
Robbie. Yeah.
Robbie, definitely Robbie. But I was doing well. But then in 1975, some of the West Coast William Morris agents by the names of Mike Ovitz, Ron Meyer, Mike Rosenfeld, Bill Haber, and Roland Perkins quit. One day they quit. They all quit. This is 75, right?
Right.
And that left a hole out there that had to be plugged. So they said to me several months later, not the day after, but several months later, while they were still plugging holes, we'd like you to move to LA. And it's really to take their place.
But they were mainly TV agents, weren't they?
Mainly, yes. That's what was so interesting. They're mainly, as Ronnie dabbled. Ronnie had some movie stuff going. The others were strictly TV, which is why CAA was.
So was this Abe, or who made the call? Was it,
No, the New York. New York was run by, and this is one of the problems with the then William Morris. William Morris in LA and definitely in New York were managed by non-agents. They were not agents. They were businessmen. They were company managers. So Nat Lefkowitz, Lee Stevens, Howard Hausman. I mean, they hardly had a client. If they did, they only had a nominal client between them. So they didn't know what was going on. And one of them, I think it was Lee Stevens, called me in his office and said, "We'd like you to go to LA." And I said, "What the hell?" So and Wally and I looked at each other, let's do it. So mid-January, they said that. Early February, I was in LA. Early February 1976.
And I'm trying to think now, 75, 76. Okay. Well, you were at I don't have to, I mentioned this before we went on, but we just heard that a wonderful client of yours and a friend of mine, Terry Garr, just passed away. And I remember negotiating with you for Terry to star in a John Schlesinger movie, which didn't do very well, called Honky Tonk Freeway. I think in 1978 or 79. But you said you had a great story.
Great story, which I think now it's safe to identify, Terry. It's one of the many agent stories, right? So representing the wonderful Terry, who is funny and sexy, not a everyday combination. All of the above, attractive and funny and smart. Just
my favorite line ever: "Put the Kindle back." Young Frankenstein.
Great, just
The
great.
best.
So, Terry, I make a deal for Terry to be in a movie. I've even forgotten the title. It was, I suppose I could come up with the title. It doesn't matter. That she was going to film in rural Mexico. And this is the point of no cell phones, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. So rural Mexico, where she told me, and I was told, I'm not going to be able to hear from her for several weeks. I mean, there's no real way of communication. Okay. So one day, my assistant says, "Terry's online." I go, "Wow." And I pick up, she goes, "Rick, I had to walk 3 miles to get to the phone. It's a bad connection. I'm going to have to hang up. But we just saw the trade papers." And you know how we have trade papers. You can tell how long ago it was. "I just saw trades and all my competition is working. Merrill, Susan Sarandon, they're all working. Rick, they're all starring in movies." I said, "Terry, you're starring in a movie. You're calling me from location. You're working." And she stops and goes, "You're right." She goes, "I didn't think of that." She goes, "You're absolutely correct. I am." And so, sorry to have bothered you. And she hung up.
Was there a difference in working in the Morris office in LA as opposed to the Morris office in New York, where they operated differently?
Yes, because you really felt that in LA, you were in the heart of the movie business and you felt it. You walk outside and there are people talking movies. One of my first, Literally, one of my first days in LA, I go into this little deli. God knows there are no little delis anymore, but there were in 1976. Some little deli in Beverly Hills. And there's this little old lady behind the counter. I get my salad or something. And she goes, "Oh, okay, give me a change." Phone rings. She goes, "Excuse me a sec." Picks up the phone, goes, "Well, did Dino like the script? I think we can do some revisions on it." I'm thinking, where am I? Is this possible? Then she goes, hangs up and goes back, gives me my change, says thank you, and goes on. I'm not making
It's a great story.
It's true. I'm not making it up. It's all
And you were around the corner from Will Wright's, weren't you? Was Will Wright's there, the ice cream place?
Yeah. This is our mid-70s stuff.
Yeah.
But it was different in that in New York, you felt, whereas movies were obviously being done, no question, but New York was so much bigger than that. You felt like a little village of movies in a big city. Whereas in LA, you felt like everything was a movie.
Right.
Everything was the movie business.
Was there some advice you got at the Morris office, something you learned at the Morris office that you carried with you the rest of your life? Did Norman Brokaw say something, or Joe Schoenfeld, or I don't know. I'm just mentioning names in that period.
There was one thing, but it's the reverse of what you said. On every memo, because everything was done by memos, on every memo and every buck slip at the bottom, it said, "Put it in writing." It was printed on the thing. "Put it in writing." And now the last thing I want to do is put it in writing. So is the right, put it in writing? I don't think so.
Very funny. Very funny. Okay, so those the first Young Turks leave, and now you're at the Morris office. Who called you, and why did you decide to move to CAA?
Everything was going great. All's relative, but from my point of view, everything was going. I don't know if it's from anybody else's point of view. From my point of view, everything was going great at Morriside in
LA.
LA. Yeah, I had good client. Things were doing fine, but I didn't feel as though I was getting quite enough attention paid. The salary was okay, but I don't know. I just felt like the road was kind of blocked for me, but I was still going along because why not? I remember we had our year-end bonus meeting and Stan Kamen and one of the management owner executives, Roger Davis, gave me my bonus. They said, Rick, you're doing great. We love you. In 10 years, you could be another Stan Kamen. And I think to myself, 10 years? Geez, I'm more in a hurry than that. So that kind of stuck with me. Then I knew Ronnie and Mike. I knew Ronnie and didn't know Mike. I should say I didn't know Mike. I knew Ronnie. And I got calls to try to recruit me. And I had I had meetings, etc., with them, but it didn't take. It just didn't take. And I thought, they're a little TV agency. They're good guys, but it's a little TV agency, and I'm doing fine here. It's the William Morris office. No, I'm good. Then my dear friend, Fred Spector, calls and said, I know you said no. I know they've all given up. I'm not giving up. I want to see you. I want to come over to your house on this Saturday morning, and talk to you and Wally, talk to you about making this move. And I said, okay, Fred, but it's not. Okay. Love you, Fred. Why not? Because Fred had gone. Fred had gone a year before, 2 years. And he comes over, and I don't remember what he said exactly, but I remember seeing him on the couch, and I remember my blood kind of turning cold, going, oh my God, I think I should do this. He's right. Whatever it was he was saying got me. So get this. So I have another meeting with Ovitz. Fred says, I think we got him. I meet with Ovitz, shake hands with him. And he said, so when are you going to come over? And I go, very soon, but I'm not sure. I got to line some things up with clients. I have to handle this. That was, let's call it a Tuesday night. I shake hands with him. Wednesday morning, I get a call from Johnny Planko, my dear friend, agent in New York, who's also no longer with us. This is the next morning. He goes, I hear you made the deal with Ovitz. I said, what? Where'd you hear that? He goes, oh, everybody knows. We all know. I've never figured out who. I have suspicions I'd rather not say. But they knew the next morning, and I wasn't even ready to go. I hadn't told any clients. I'd done nothing.
Headlines in the trades, probably.
They knew before I did, the trades. And so I go in, it's a rainy January day, pouring rain. And I go in, and the management there is waiting for me, saying, is it true? It was Roger Davis, actually. Is it true? Are you leaving? I said, yes, I'm leaving. He said, give me the keys to your car, because it was a company-owned car. So go pack your stuff, because, I'm now a rival agent. So the bottom line is I go up with my assistants with me, gather my stuff in boxes, walk to CAA in the pouring rain from
to 1888, right?
El Camino Drive in Bev Hills to 1888 Central Park, carrying boxes in the pouring rain, my career behind me, everything I ever knew behind me, to go into, a place where I vaguely knew it seemed okay.
Wow.
What the hell? But
wow,
it worked out.
What a story. That's a great moment. Now, I read somewhere or heard somewhere. Tell me about that first day when you go into your first CAA staff meeting.
Oh, yeah, that was the difference. That's a good.
Yeah, I want to know yeah.
Yeah. At William Morris, like most agencies, certainly big agencies, what's Fred? You eat what you kill. You know, your clients are your clients. They're not anybody else's client. They're your clients, and you're out there to establish them and everybody else. It's little shops, little silos. And I went to CAA, and one of the very first staff meetings, they mentioned a movie star, and I think it was Chris Reeve and Christopher Reeve. And somebody says, "Well, I had lunch with Chris, and I think he's going to do that movie." And I think to myself, that agent represents Chris Reeve. I got to make a note of that. Then somebody else says, "Well, I don't know. When I spoke with him last night, he called me. He seems to be wavering." And I went, "Oh, those two guys. Okay, those two people represent Chris Reeve. Okay, fine." Then a third person says, "He wanted to have lunch today, and I think he's really undecided." And I'm thinking, wait a minute. And I nudge the person next to me, and I say, "Wait a minute, who represents Chris Reeve? Tell me who represents." And she looks up at me and goes, "We do." Like, "You idiot, we represent Chris Reeve." And to me, I went, aha, the light bulb went off. I said, then this is the thing that's going to make the difference in this business. This was the good move on my part. We represent Chris Reeve.
And before you were a solo agent, right?
Yeah, because that's how it was. You know,
that's how it was. So, was it easy for you to adapt to, having 4 or 5 other people with you, signing clients, working clients, or was it hard for you to kind of do that?
I wouldn't say it was hard, but it had to break some habits. And some habits are, the body won't make the adjustment fast. But so it took some time because I was so used to being protective and not used to, saying to somebody, "Yeah, you call my client, have lunch with him. It'll be great." It was kind of, "Why are you talking with my client?"
Right.
But I made the adjustment well enough.
But funny enough, when I was talking with you about clients, I don't remember talking to anybody else at CAA about those clients. But
some clients you have a closer relationship than others, just human nature. There's some clients who it was only me, and other clients who I was on a team or a combination of people where it was you could speak with either of us and all of us. The idea
you also mentioned somewhere that you weren't a volume agent. Can you explain what you meant by that?
It wasn't so much the clients that, well, I suppose I wasn't a volume agent. I didn't want the most amount of clients. I wanted clients who I believed in and who I felt I could do something for. I didn't want to just be along the ride, so it wasn't volume there. Also, I didn't think the more they worked, the better they were. It was career choices. The first off, the little rules I always made to myself, which was, don't follow the money. The money will find you if you do the right things. This is the nature of this business. The money. So don't let the money dictate. Be aware of it. What I would do is try to find the movie that I thought would advance their career the most, then make the best deal that I could on that given movie, whatever that deal was. And I tried to tell my clients that their entire career, they're going to be overpaid or underpaid. They're never going to be paid what anyone would think is properly. It's either going to be, can you believe it? Or how dare they? And there's no, get used to both ends of it, because that's what a career is about.
And when you signed a client, did you have that talk about the kinds of movies you want to make or the kinds of people you want to work with? It was interesting. I remember when I worked with Edward Norton on Primal Fear, which was his first movie, and when he, as we say in the business, he blew up.
Yes.
The first thing I remember him calling me and saying, I'm going to get to work with Woody Allen. I'm going to get to work with Milos Forman. It wasn't even the projects. It was to work with those directors And I wonder if there was, without, again, I'm not looking to get clients, talk about specific clients, but were there things that actors said to you that because I believe you formed and moved careers forward in a great way, Rick. Was how did you know this stuff, or what pushed you?
I knew what I liked. I always thought I had better, for lack of a better word, better artistic taste than commercial taste. I think I knew what was going to be a good movie. I was a little less sure what was going to be a hit movie. But I think the most an agent can offer, again, in terms of opportunities, is if you sign with me and us, because it's never just me, it's sign with us, with me being, shall we say, the prime person, you're going to have access to these other people. And so one way to sign an actor is tell them the fabulous directors CAA had. That's the key. The first thing, and the other actors who you can work with, and to show it that way.
Can you go back and, again, don't have to mention clients or actors, but can you remember a story where your actor, actress didn't want to do a project and you knew I got to get her or him to say yes, and it turned out good, and then another where it didn't turn out so good?
Yeah, I remember both ends, unfortunately. The good one, it was just brought to mind the other night because Paula and I had a dinner party that
That's right. Happy anniversary. Sorry I had to miss it.
Couldn't come to a 40th anniversary, 40th wedding anniversary, Paula Wagner and I. And Al Pacino was gracious enough to come. And he reminded me that in his speech, the Academy Award for Scent of a Woman in 1992, he thanked me and said, I thank my agent, Rick Nicita, because I didn't want to do this movie. He made me do the movie. He said, so,
Great.
As far as others, I would bet on the director more, for an actor this is, I would bet on the director more than the script. To me, who's directing is, if you had to choose, more important than the script. Why? Scripts change. They change in the writing, they change in the filming, they change in the editing. But the director is the director is the director. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I would have my clients ended up working with great directors on their off projects, on ones that didn't quite work. Not that I regretted it, because it was a smart decision, but you worked with the great director. They swung and missed. You still should be proud. So I could get away with it.
One of your clients, another client of yours, Tom Berenger, was at. There was a memorial service for Robert Evans on Saturday night. Actually, it was the 5th anniversary of his passing, and when I was asked to talk about Bob, and one of the things I said, yeah, I got to work with Bob on Rosemary's Baby and Chinatown and Marathon Man and Sliver, and I got a big laugh.
Sliver, see, because
that was one of those.
Oh, sure.
He was a good director, but boy, was that a bad movie.
Hey, you mentioned John Schlesinger, a wonderful director.
Yes.
It's not the top of his list.
Yes, yeah. But it was a thrill. Well, I had done Marathon Man with him, and it was a thrill to work with him.
Top of the line.
Terry and Bill Devane and all of them couldn't wait to just be in the presence of John Schlesinger.
I represented Beverly D'Angelo then, too.
I saw Beverly was there Saturday night.
Was she?
She came by.
Small town.
Crazy. Crazy.
Well, it isn't as small as it used to be. I used to think that if given enough time, I could write down the name of everyone in the movie business. I mean, it's metaphorical, but it felt that way. But it's not any longer.
Just a few of the actors that you've represented: Sally Field, Jeff Bridges, Tom Cruise, Al Pacino, Nicole Kidman, Deborah Winger, Anthony Hopkins, Sissy, you mentioned, a few great directors, David Lynch being one of them. Just, you represented, or Paula represented Tom, I think, first.
Oh, God, please. Paula, I hate the word discovered, but she did. She how's better? Found Tom, and in 1980, I want to say 81, 82, and was his agent till they became producing partners in the early 90s and were together 15 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were and probably still are in some way the power couple of Hollywood. I met Tom the first time at the premiere of can't even remember the name of it, but Hal Ashby directed it and it starred Rebecca De Mornay. It was
Slugger's wife.
Slugger's wife. Thank you. Thank you. And Tom came with Rebecca down to Atlanta for the premiere. That was the first time I met Tom.
I remember, I remember because I was hanging around outside Paula's office, wooing myself, and Tom had to borrow a sport jacket to come in and meet with his agent, Miss Wagner, which is what he called it. I knew Tom as a star at the premiere of, I think it was Risky Business.
Risky Business, sure.
I found myself, because we were standing near him, of course, because Paula was
Taps before Risky Business? Was Taps before Risky Business? Do you remember?
Yes, Taps was where she signed him, and Risky Business. And I remember I'm standing with Paula and Tom, and there's all these people trying to get to Tom, and I found myself throwing all these body blocks and protecting him, and I'm going, what is going on here? Why do I feel now like I'm in a wrestling match when people trying to get to him? And we went, oh.
Now, how did you now once Paula and Tom became a producing company, were you representing Tom and or was Mike or Ronnie? How did you guys navigate a husband and wife? That's got to be a tough way.
Very delicately, yes. There were times that we collided, but Paul and I always found the way to do it and do the right thing. But again, I represented Tom with Kevin Devane, and he and I were both his agents. And yeah, Paula was producing. It could be tricky, but more often it was beneficial as opposed to neutral. More often it was beneficial that. It was all of us. Occasionally it was awkward, but we would overcome it.
Yeah, I would say I can't think of another actor other than Tom who really is the essence of what a producer is, knows who he is, makes the right movies for himself, meaning understanding his character, and has been this successful. I mean, Redford was a big star, but never had the commerciality that,
Tom knows his audience. He knows, Tom gets it.
Yeah. Yeah. There isn't another one like it.
I don't know, there will be. Either.
Well, maybe, but there's, I think about some of the young ones, or they're not so young anymore, but who are trying to do that, but I don't know they'll have the longevity.
I think the land, and it's not their fault. I think the landscape has changed. The geography has changed. There's a lot more hills and valleys and things that you can't anticipate. A wrong statement and social media wants you thrown off a cliff, but you don't have time to clean it up. Remember with us, with the previously mentioned trade papers, if something happened Wednesday morning, it wasn't going to be really known until Thursday morning. So you had a little time now to say something at 11:06 a.m. By 11:10, you're
right. I got it. What do you think the hardest thing is of being an agent? What's the hardest job?
First off, it's not a job; it's a calling. It's 24/7. People say, is it the 3 a.m. phone calls? I go, no, it's the possibility of the 3 a.m. phone call that does the same thing. You always have to be kind of aware. So it's hard. And the responsibility is huge because people have put their lives in your hands. It's not somebody's money, with all due respect to somebody's money. It's somebody's life. It's their career. If you make too many mistakes with them, you're hurting them, their families, their responsibility was huge. And I took it, I did not take it lightly. And then again, you have to figure out what to do with them. Three things an agent does. The least, to me, is negotiating the deal, because lawyers can do it just as well. There's certain zones you already find yourself in the deal zone almost right away. It's where in that zone you're going to be. The second most important thing is getting the job, getting the offer, and that can be very, very tricky and arduous. But the key is telling them advising them what to do. Because when you're dealing with stars, and I was fortunate enough there's lots of opportunities. It wasn't, oh boy, we got an offer. It was, well, here's 3 today, and I'm expecting 2 more tomorrow morning. What do you do? And that's where the rubber hits the road. And hopefully I managed to tell people the right thing.
There's an old adage that in Hollywood that actors are very, very insecure. Would you say that on the whole, there's an insecurity that you're able to deal with and work with and help them through so that they feel good about going ahead and doing the job?
Yes, exactly. It was I always try to tell the truth in the best way. Maxim for young agents: tell the truth artfully. Tell it, always tell it, but tell it in the best way that you can, that you are telling the truth. Realize who you are speaking with, and how to do it. Actually, this sounds self-serving, but when we made the change, when Mike and Ronnie left, and there were 9 of us actually who took over CAA. There were writing these little things about us in the trades, and it said something that always stuck in my head, and I was rather proud of. It said, "Nobody gives bad news better than Rick Nicita," because you don't want to hurt people. You have to you tell them the truth, but don't be sensitive. Understand that yes, actors are insecure for good reason. They're judged, they're evaluated, they're poked, they're prodded, they're booed, they're applauded, but they're justified in their insecurity.
Yeah, you gave me some bad news once. Just
You told me, you mentioned that.
yes, we were doing I want to hear your side of this, but we were doing a movie called Peggy Sue Got Married, Francis Coppola directing, from a script from Jerry and Arlene, Paul Gurian producing.
Mhm.
And Paul and I were in a meeting with Jeff Sagansky, and I think Gary Lucchese probably was a TriStar at that time, and Francis, and we're 7 weeks from shooting. We're in a budget meeting, and somebody hands me a slip of paper at TriStar on Century Park East. Rick Nicita's on the phone, and Deborah Winger was the star. And I walked outside, and you gave me the truth, hopefully artfully told.
No, there wasn't much room.
That Deborah Winger was a herniated disc and couldn't work for 6 months. And I had to walk in and tell that big group that we didn't have an actress. Now, what was your side of that?
Well, because there was no side, because that was cut and dry. She had a back injury that she had years and years ago that would keep flaming up. She was in a car accident, truck accident actually, years ago. So it happened again. So there really wasn't much to.
Oh, so she didn't have a fall or an accident?
No. It was it was an aggravation of a truly serious existing injury. It was all bona fide. I've had to make a few calls like that where it's a little sketchier about the person saying no.
Got it. And when Kathleen Turner wasn't your client, because we moved to Kathleen Turner, I thought she wasn't your.
No, goes.
What's the best thing about being an agent?
Dealing with these really fascinating people who are gifted. They have a gift. The muse is whispering in their ear, and they think differently, and they are different. And they kind of, I use the word glow. They kind of glow. And I liked working with them and helping them get what they want, or either what they want or what they would want if they knew enough to want that.
Now, I read somewhere that Paula said, how does she get along with Tom? And she said, I work with Tom, but my private life I keep separate. And I never forget when my dad became head of Sinatra's company in 1960, he said, I'm going to stay with Frank because everybody else that works with Frank wants to hang with Frank. And he never hung with Frank. And I wondered, with your clients, were you social with them, or you really tried to stay you have to do some social stuff, obviously, but you didn't have to get into everybody's lives?
What a great question. And I was very specific about this. No, I did not try to be the hanger-outer with. I would resist it. Matter of fact, I didn't want to do that. Sometimes the young agents would come in looking bleary-eyed, and I'd say, rough night? And they'd say, yeah, I was with my client till 3 a.m. We went to 4 bars. I said, no, big mistake. They don't want to see you like that. That isn't what the relationship is. With my clients, I think it was more than a professional. It was a personal relationship. But if I were a real friend, I wouldn't charge them 10%. I'd make a call. I'd read a script. That's what friends are for. I want a friendly relationship, but it's a professional relationship. So no, I did not try to get in there. And when I became a manager, I was a manager briefly, a couple of years, 3, 4. I like being an agent much more than a manager. I felt I was being compelled to get in too close, and it just didn't work for me.
Talk about, you, in your days at the Morris office, CAA, wherever, you saw a piece of film where somebody said, yeah, you ought to meet or you ought to see this person. How did you go about trying to sign that particular person? And can you give an example of something that you did that somebody said? And I realize you might say, hey, look at all the directors that we represent, but was there something that you're not doing it anymore? Maybe you could give us a little instance of how you got someone to sign with you.
I'm trying to think if there was a singular thing, but I became fortunate rather rapidly where people were almost, if not coming to me, they were meeting me halfway. They knew who I was. I didn't have to paint a picture. The canvas had.
Wow, Rick Nicita saw my movie, right?
It was halfway thing. So I wasn't a blank slate. Hi, I'm Rick. Here's what I do. So I really can't think of that. But the signing process is an interesting one. Just the whole signing of a client. It's much easier when you have something like CAA with you, because I remember when we signed Bruce Willis. Well, actually, I don't know how well this is going to go over today for a certain reason. When we signed Bruce Willis, Richard Lovett and myself and a couple other people, ultimately he said, guys, I met with the other agencies and decided to take an agent, but I want to play for the Yankees. And there we were. Of course, the Yankees are down 3-0 today. But
yes, yeah, I'm very happy about that.
Said, yeah, I want to play for the Yankees. So we had that going. We had that going for us. And I think a key to signing somebody is, I think too many agents come in and start rattling off their plans for the client without saying the important question is, what do you want? What do you want your career to be? Let me tell you something. Kevin Kline did not want the same career that Kurt Russell had. Right? Well, let's leave it at that. Great actors, terrific guys. I represented them a long time. Fabulous people in towns. They didn't want the same things. It wasn't so. So I didn't try to make them be the same thing.
Right. I've got an old Kurt Russell story you might like. I'm doing this movie called Fool's Parade in Wheeling, West Virginia, and we're at a prison. We're outside a prison. It starred Jimmy Stewart and George Kennedy and Strother Martin and a young kid named Kurt Russell.
Wow.
And the school got out down the street, and I see all these kids running up, and I took Jimmy Stewart and George Kennedy and Jimmy Stewart, right? Jimmy Stewart. I'm working with James Stewart, and I kicked them off to the side, and they literally tackled Kurt Russell because he was a Disney star.
There
And
you go.
every time I would see Kurt, he said, you left me out there to die."
Yeah, Kurt was fun. I still occasionally see the clip of him kicking Elvis in the shins, and it happened at the World's Fair in 1953. It's a great clip. The guy kicks him, and I'm like, "What are you doing, boy?" We had some fun moments. There was one picture. I think it was what was the I think it was might have been Breakdown with Dino.
Great movie.
Great movie. But Kurt, for some reason, Kurt didn't want to do it. And I wasn't 100% sure. And so we kept turning it down. And Dino kept upping the offer. It wasn't like negotiating. We go, "No, Kurt says no." And you go, "How about that?" No, Kurt says no. How about? Finally, I end up calling Kurt and I go, "I'm either the best agent in the world or the worst because I cannot kill this deal. They keep coming. What do we do?" And he goes, "What do you think?" I go, "Let's do it." And then there you were. But I couldn't kill
Great
it.
story.
But how I tried.
Great story. All right, let's get serious for a moment now. Tell me about your relationships between you and Ovitz and you and Ronnie, and how, when you first came, I'm sure Ovitz, the ultimate agent, swarmed you and put his arms around you and did that. What was it like to work? I'm asking too many questions. Was there a difference in going to Mike's office or Ronnie's office?
Yes, because there were different people, but and different ways and different times. But Mike was fantastic. Mike made it happen. He was smart, visionary, articulate, strong, a masterful manager. You could say manipulator of people. But those were great days. The '80s. The '80s up to the early '90s, great days. And Mike made it happen. Ronnie's wonderful, always was, still is great. He
I
understood.
must say, I'm not close with Ronnie, but I've known him for, I think I helped move desks into 1888 when they were first doing it. That's how long I've been around. But I've never, and as many times as I've called Ron Meyer in my life, I don't care where he's on a plane, he's in Europe, in 15 minutes, he calls me back. And
Yep.
it's not, I'm nobody. I mean,
Oh, he's the
he does
great.
this with everybody.
Yeah, but the trick is the call is ending as soon as it starts. It's going down. And it's never a long call. but we could call him now. We can get him on the line now. I'm sure.
I bet he would.
Oh,
I bet he would. But what happened? Before Mike left, did you sense a difference in Mike? Did you sense a difference in Ron? I know it happened overnight and all of you were like, "Whoa, what's going on?" But there must have been some hints going on before.
there were Mike he just seemed unsettled, and I think all the publicity that he was getting confused him, and he just wasn't sure who he was anymore. And in a funny kind of way, him being raised to such a height made him nervous. I mean, it's like the tightrope walker who looks down and goes, "Whoa, that's a long way to fall." If you're not as high up, you don't worry about falling as much. And so I could sense the difference in him. And I don't want to speak for Ronnie's and his relationship, but it obviously wasn't the same as it was when I came there. And the key to the company was Ronnie and Mike's relationship. And if that was frayed, the vibes were everywhere.
And all of a sudden, you wake up one morning and they're both gone.
Well, Ronnie first.
Right.
Ronnie first. And
but it wasn't that much longer.
No, I think it had to be a couple of months max.
Yeah.
Something like that. But I do remember Ronnie going.
And from being the young guy 21 or 22 signing clients at the Morris office, all of a sudden you're known as one of the old agents.
Yeah, I was the veteran agent.
Veteran agent, right? Better than old.
Yeah,
Yes.
veteran. I was a veteran, I was kid. Hey, kid. And I still go, yeah, no, not the kid anymore. But
Me too. I was a first AD at 23, and
yeah, sure. I mean, you were born to it. We had, but it's an opportunity. You made the most of the opportunity. Nothing was given to you.
yeah, that's
You had an opportunity. You had a chance.
Yeah.
You,
But what you wake up that morning and now Mike's gone.
yeah, I was actually the Ronnie thing was interesting. When Ronnie left, I get a call on a Sunday afternoon in '95, August '95. Pick up the phone, and a voice I know goes, "Rick." I go, "Mike, that you?" Goes, "Yeah." "You heard from Ronnie?" And I go, "No." He goes, "You will. He took my job," and he hangs up. That was what I heard about Ronnie.
That's when Ronnie moved to Universal, right?
Yeah, it's not true the way Mike put it. I'm just telling you what.
Right.
And then Paul and I and Jesse and our son Zach were on vacation a couple months later in Italy, and I'm trying to, time difference. So I call in at about 6 o'clock in Italy, call the office at around 9 a.m. and nobody's in my office. I can't seem to get anybody. I'm thinking, why I can get nobody? I think, okay, who knows? I'll return some calls that I owe. And I call Martin Schaefer at Castle Rock and returning his call from the night before or something. I go, "Martin, what do you," he goes, "Wow, can you believe it?" And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Ovitz." I go, "What?" And he says, "He's gone. He's gone to Disney." That was how I heard. And he had called a meeting and turned the company over to 9 people. So there we were.
And it feels like a company without a leader. I mean, there was 9 of you, but
that's tricky. That's very, very tricky. 9, that was all nice, but 9 people, and that's hard to run a company 9 people wise.
And there were 4 veterans who kind of each had their own kind of
four
place,
veterans.
and then there's five young Turks.
Absolutely. But you want to know something? We certainly was hard. In the beginning, people would literally say to me, I remember I had to go to New York almost immediately, and people would come up to me and say, "So sorry about what happened to CAA." Like, we're dead and buried. Like in the past, "So sorry what happened, when I'll be at the memorial," but we were dumb enough not to see it that way. And it worked. It obviously worked.
Can you tell? I read somewhere, I don't know. I love to what? Like, Mike had this. What is this? I remember you needed to see Sally Field somewhere, and all of a sudden there was a plane. Can you tell that?
We found out there were a lot of things that we didn't know. But look. I didn't spend much time dwelling on how much Mike was making or how much Ronnie was making. I'm concerned with how much I'm making.
Right.
That's their business. Was I being handsomely rewarded? Yes. Do I have any right to complain? No. So therefore, fine.
So what happened? That was, I guess, August or maybe October, wherever it was. Mike left. But a year later, Mike's gone from Disney.
Yes.
And did he ever attempt to come back in any way, or did you guys?
No, matter of fact, unfortunately, he started the other company, the management.
Oh, right, with Kathy Schulman.
And he, to my eyes, he played it that they were de facto competitors with us. It wouldn't be phrased that way, but it lined up that way, which upset us greatly. I mean, that is not what should have been done. That was just all wrong. And so it just set off a whole fire that never kind of went away.
One of the stories that I think there's a lot of, by the way, I don't know if you know it, but, I don't know if I'm mentioning, there's several residents at the home that were your compatriots.
I know.
I don't want to mention names on public here, but
Yeah, you mentioned one before. I didn't know there were several, but I knew one for
yeah.
sure.
But I think one day, if you don't mind, I want to get you and Paula to come out and we'll have a lunch.
I'm overdue, way overdue.
That would be fun.
Way
Yeah, we'll come out and do that. There was a story I read to talk about how a movie gets made, because packaging really was the number one thing that I think that CAA really did in the 80s. And one of my favorite movies of all time and one of my favorite singers of all time was Prince. And I think it's in the CAA book about all the different machinations to get that movie made. There's nothing wrong with talking about it. Can you kind of tell people how something like that gets done?
Well, Prince worked in mysterious ways, as you would expect. I represented him kind of, again, de facto, in that I was the main movie contact for him.
But he hadn't made a movie yet, had he?
No, no. We would speak. He was the only client I ever had who would call me. He'd call me. System would say, Prince on the line. I'd pick up and go, hello, Prince. And he wouldn't say anything. Meanwhile, he called me. And I go, Prince? Nothing. Nothing. Finally, he'd say something, but I'd have to coax him to say something on his incoming call to me. But as far as Purple Rain, it was a lot of working with the manager and Warner Brothers, which had mixed feelings, because he was their music star. And movies could tarnish his reputation. Who would think that he would, who would think he would jump into a big hit movie of his creation? The odds are keeping them away, keep it separate. So we had to fight with them. I remember the director of
Albert Magnoli.
Magnoli, to director with Terry Semel and Bob Daly, and he got on his knees pleading with them to make the movie. It was great. I remember I could see him just jumping down on his knees. So, a lot of people have to okay a movie. The days of, even then it wasn't like somebody snaps their finger. Even if Terry or Bob said, we'll make it, you still had umpteen hurdles. They were lower hurdles, but it was a low hurdle race that you had.
Let's get to the big problem about today. And maybe you can, your philosophy, not philosophy, but you and I in our prime, 70s, 80s, 90s, just, we made movies, and it was hard to get movies made, but somehow we got them made, and they were good movies. Talk about the difference of trying to do business today from doing business in those days.
Because it was run those days, and I guess you could say it was a cottage industry, and there wasn't as much money at stake, and you can give all those reasons, but it was still a business of gut, of feeling, instinct, creativity. The most data you'd have would be a reader's coverage, and maybe check a domestic gross or two of some other movie that connected. That was about it. Otherwise, you had to just feel it. There were no algorithms. There was no, computer to feed it into. There were no green light committees. There was no committee. There was a couple of people who, what do you think? Again, the risk was smaller, so a flop wouldn't kill you, nor would the notoriety kill you. You could flop quietly. Now you can't. And let's face it, most movies aren't hits. I also would tell my clients that being in show business, certainly the movie business, like playing baseball. Baseball's a game of failure. Out of 10 times at bat, 7 times you're going to go back to dugout. If you get a hit 3 out of 10 times, you're leading the league. If you get a hit 4 out of 10 times, they're building stadiums in your honor. So you're making an out at least 6 or 7 times, probably more. So it was much more failure allowed, which allows for instinct and creativity. And why not? Let's give it a try. I read the most unusual thing. Let's go for it. It's not around anymore. Algorithm. I didn't even know what that meant. I'd never heard the word. And I find it extremely frustrating. And it's so imprecise. And the method of indie financing, of foreign sales, I find a really problematic thing. They always look backwards. It's not even the present, much less the future. It's looking back at what did, and everybody has a different opinion based on the same facts. Tough, tough.
Are you happy you're not having to do that anymore?
You know, I do play around, produced a picture that came out in December, Freud's last session, with my old client, ex-client, Tony Hopkins, which I'm very proud of. And I've got a couple of things going that with any luck will happen, but I'm not in it. It's not my calling. I do it because I like the people, and I'm partnered with the mechanic on something. People I like, projects that interest me.
Right.
Few of them.
Talk about American Cinematheque and why you got involved in that and why you feel it's
Well,
something.
the whole movie aspect, because I always loved movies and would go to see movies on my own. I never stopped watching movies. And I think too many people, as an aside, in the business today, they're not there because they love movies. I'm not quite sure what the reasons are, but it's not movies, because otherwise they wouldn't be so ignorant of movie history. I'm tired of naming a movie where somebody says, I don't, what's that? Don't know it, haven't heard of it. I go, what? And don't give me the excuse of, oh, it's before I was born or I wasn't. Bullshit.
And I tell you,
Yeah.
you are we are one day apart, Rick, because I have two grandsons.
Grumpy old men.
Yeah, I have two grandsons in the business, and when they were going to college, one's an actor doing very well, Cooper Koch, and the other one's a nominated film editor, Peyton Koch. But when they were in high school, I said to them, get the AFI 100 films and watch them all.
Yes, it's so much fun.
And I mean, absolutely, and it's you and I, it's like with me and Mark Gordon, we talk in quotes from films, dialogue. And you understand, and the people who love movies, that's why I love actors, because the actors seem to know this stuff.
That's why actors make great directors, in my opinion. I'm a big booster of actor as director, for sure.
But I got to work with, after Primal Fear, I did a movie called Keeping the Faith that Edward Norton directed.
Sure.
And again, he would say, you remember the shot in Jules and Jim? I mean, it was that kind of stuff. And
it's a love of movies. They're in your blood or you're not. And I hate to have people making decisions here where it's not in their blood. Two Cinematheque stories. People say, can I sum up why I'm in the Cinematheque? Cinematheque being, we program the Egyptian, we run the Arrow, the Los Feliz, and we're going to do more. Great, great, great programming. My son, Zach, when he was a teenager, early teenager, I said, Zach, I want to take us to go see Lawrence of Arabia at the Arrow Theater. And he goes, wow, what's that? And I described. And he goes, how long is it? And I go, three hours, a little more. And he goes, oh, Dad, no, I don't want to. I said, I'll tell you what, there's an intermission. He goes, what? I go, yep, there was an intermission. Come, if you don't have to stay. If you, just like the first, if you want to leave, I'm not going to be upset. So we go, blah, 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 lights go up. I go, well, you're leaving? He goes, nah, I'm staying. And that, to me, I just love that. And further, I took Zach and my son Jesse, their girlfriends, and Paul and I went and saw King. There you go.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Perfect. Last Saturday, I took them, my whole family with Paula. We went to see at the Egyptian King Kong, 1933.
Wow, Bay Ray.
Movies of all time. Bay Ray, Robert Armstrong, Bruce Cabot. Just sitting there watching this movie that's 91 years old on the screen. I was in heaven. But it was a great afternoon. Wonderful. And they all loved it too. That's the beauty of it.
You're absolutely right. I can't tell you. We have so much in common. That's why, honestly, that's why when the Academy Museum, why we have all these screenings at the museum, same kind of stuff. I gotta go. I gotta be there. And today, I don't know if you've seen Nora. Have you seen Nora yet?
No, I heard it's fantastic. Haven't seen it.
And I can't wait to see Conclave with,
I'll tell you another one, Emilia Perez.
I hear that's great too.
Great movie.
But
Great.
isn't it terrific that I just love that people are actually going back to the movies?
Yeah.
The independents are doing some business again, which means people a little younger than us, but still older people are saying, hey, it's safe to go back to the movies again.
I'll do even better. I just read an article yesterday that from, I forget what publication, but I could forward it to you, saying how repertory theater is really booming, meaning old movies, not talking first run, old movies like what the Cinematheque shows. We're not in the first run business. All over the country, people are coming out of their houses to go to a theater to see Dog Day Afternoon. They could call it up on their Apple TV. They're going out to the theater to see it on a big screen in a communal setting. So
I'll bet you I could walk into a studio today and walk in and there's 4 executives that I'm about to meet with, and I go, Attica, and none of them have any idea what I'm saying.
it's so sad, but it's so sad, but you know, things, as long as there is an audience for movies, and by that I mean depictions of stories done by actors on film a couple hours long. That's a movie. As long as there's an appetite for that, the technology will sort itself out and the financial rewards will level out. But as long as there's that appetite, and there always will be, in my opinion, there always will.
I agree, but wouldn't you rather see King Kong at the Egyptian than, I don't care how big your screen is at home, it's not there with everybody else in a community.
But I said, let's gather around and, you know, call up King Kong on iTunes. No, go to the,
Exactly. You and I are very much in common. What's next? Is there a goal? Is there some dream that you have that you want to do before it's all over?
There's several things I'm working on, but the one that is closest to my heart is a movie that is Al Pacino playing Frank Lloyd Wright, Matt Bomer playing Philip Johnson, directed by Taylor Hackford, with a script by Kurt Wimmer about the Wright Philip Johnson battles for architectural supremacy of the 20th century.
And you're trying to get it financed.
We are going to go out to get it financed. So with any luck, you'll be seeing it at some point.
Well, if Taylor's watching, because he's on my list, you know, I gave him his first job, you know, the Idol Maker.
Oh, sure.
And he's finishing his memoir right now.
Yes. You'll be in it.
I can't wait to see that one. All right. Well, Rick, this has been an absolute pleasure.
I enjoyed it.
I don't know whether there are any questions from any of the residents, but I'm bringing in Jen, who has her own set of questions just before we wrap it up. But I just wanted to thank you. I really had a great time, and I
enjoyed it. So everyone else did. I had a ball.
Great. Jen, go for it.
Okay, so normally I have 2 standard questions that we ask everybody. I think I already know the first answer because I've been paying attention. Your favorite TV show?
Now we're back then.
Well, I heard Sid Caesar shows Sid Caesar.
I'd have to answer that. That was the can't miss. And then you couldn't tape it, so I couldn't miss it, you know.
So the second question, because we are the Motion Picture and Television Fund, is what is your favorite film?
I'm torn between a bunch, but for different reasons. Look, everybody has their favorite in their formative years. That's where it comes from. Rarely are you, 67 and find your favorite film. You're 20, you're whatever. But I'd mention King Kong, mention Lawrence of Arabia. Giant is one of my favorite films. I could watch Giant forever. I would say, I'd say those 3 more. And in the modern era coming closer, Heat, Michael Mann's film with Al and De Niro is one you can't miss. Goodfellas is a can't miss. Godfather. I'm naming you know where I'm going.
I do. I also got a question from one of our crew members. Years ago, he had heard somebody say, I'm going to pull up his email. An industry friend once commented to me that agents are the ones that run the business because they're the ones determining everyone's salary. Do you think there's any truth to that?
I think there was a lot of truth to that it felt like CAA's prime. I think now less so. I don't think that it's simple as that. Stars have been devalued. The need for star actors is less than it was, and there are fewer of them. So I think as a blanket statement, no, less, maybe once a lot, not so much anymore. I don't think agents are in the power position. They're the guardians of the talent, for sure, and the advisors of the talent, but I don't think they have quite the power, or they're not exercising the power, put it that way. They're trying to get it done.
Right.
Do you think, do you think agents represent the same as they used to when you were, in your prime?
No, it's different. I'm not going to tell you the quality of it, it's different. I think as things got more corporatized, agents stepped back from the personal attention that some, like Fred Spector, still do, and that I used to do. And it had stepped back to have more clients become more transactional, more bottom line focused. That the step back created a vacuum, which the managers filled. When I started, if an actor had a manager, notwithstanding the Bill Treshel I mentioned, who was unusual in managing these actors, if an actor had a manager, the question would be, oh, you have a manager, really? Cut to, oh, who's your manager? We bypass, do you have a manager? We're into, oh, nice to meet you, Mr. or Miss Actor. Who's your manager? They all do, because they're not getting the personal attention. I marvel at that, because they're paying an extra percentage, 10% for what they used to get built in. So be it. If that's what it takes to get through today's, jungle of the business, then so be it.
Did you have something else, Jen, or Bob, did you have a question?
No, I wanted to make sure before, oh, sorry, Jen, go.
That's all right. I just wanted to say I glanced at my phone because I wanted to make sure we weren't missing any Facebook comments. There were a couple of comments, but they were all, thank you so much for doing this. Your insightful stories are great. And I don't know what Stacy was agreeing with, but she said, you're absolutely correct. I totally agree. So thanks, Stacy.
Talked for an hour and a half and she agreed. Okay, I'm fabulous.
Bob, did you want to say something?
Well, two things, really. One, wanted to thank Rick for doing this. A fabulous hour something. I know Rick just very tangentially, so it was a real pleasure to take a deep dive into the career and more important, the person. And then I wanted to thank Rick and Paula for being such generous donors to MPTF and loyal,
What an important organization serving a vital function. Everyone should be embracing what you do and touching it and understanding it. And Hawk, take you up on that. Let's book that tour.
Okay.
ASAP.
yeah, it'd be great to have you guys out here.
I want to be on that tour. I'd love to shake hands and meet you in person. Thank you so much, Rick. I'm going to back out. Hawk, you wrap it up and we'll hand it over to meditation whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. It was terrific. I'm so happy we did this. And again, happy anniversary. Love to Paula. And I want to come to American Cinematheque.
There we go.
Take care.
Thank you.